Welcome back, everybody, for a Wednesday night under the lights, half under the lights race in Darlington once again on the same track as the Coca-Cola 500,
Charlotte.
but this time Charlotte. That's what I said. For the Alsco Uniforms 500, I am back with Tom, and you can find him at kartracing_22. And I am not CK. I am the better looking younger CK with you. You don't have to look at his ponytail this whole time. You can look at my amazing hat. But this is an interesting inverted race. Last week, they didn't price anybody up starting from the back that were better races. This time, they did. And that will lead to some more interesting builds, possibly, because now you get a lot of lower price guys and worse equipment, starting with what can only be negative place differential unless something weird happens. But let's get into, hear the experts take on it. Tom, let's start.
Man. So, I've already seen up in the chat on YouTube, there's a lot of talk. Jimmy Johnson is straight chalk. Clint Bowyer's completely chalk. And, I would even throw Bubba Wallace in there starting 37th, just because he's the cheapest guy starting that deep in the field. So, it's going to make for some very interesting builds. I mean, you would want to go a 2-dominator race, maybe a 3 even here, just because it's a little bit shorter race. So you'll get some 40 or 50 laps out of some dudes instead of somebody just straight dominating the race. But with, Jimmy Johnson and all them being priced up, it forces you to make a lot more interesting decisions. Like, instead of being able to say, okay, I'm going to play these guys and then still be able to build around it, it makes it much harder. With Jimmy at 12.3, Clint Bowyer at 11.8, they're more expensive than your Truexes and your Harvicks and your Kyle Busches that you think are going to win this race. So it's how much of that chalk are you going to have to eat and get the correct lineup? I expect all 3 of them to score fairly well. As long as they all survive the race, which, is with Clint Bowyer last week, finishing 37, smashing into the wall. So I don't expect tons of ties, but man, and that's even if we get this race in tonight, man. It's already pouring there. It's been pouring all day. It's supposed to start to taper off around race time, but it's still 50-60% at 8 o'clock. So it's probably going to be tomorrow unless they are able to, unless it dries up, say 7 o'clock or something like that, and they're able to get the track dry by 9 o'clock. I don't think they're going to try to race till midnight again. But man. It's going to be an interesting slate, but that's where you want to really, I think, lean on your own gut feeling and your projections of how you think the ownership should be in MME type stuff, and and with the cash lineups, it's again how much of the chalk and how much do you have to eat for this weekend, and how much are you going to get from those other guys that are going to be lower owned based on price and based on starting position. So man.
Let's get into it. Like always, if you are watching, please subscribe and hit that like button for us. That'd be greatly appreciated. And if you're new to the show, basically we go in price ranges, driver by driver breakdown, and then at the end, all questions are welcome, and I will relay them to Tom, and he will answer them to the best of his abilities. But let's get started with the 10K and up. We got 5 drivers here, with Jimmy Johnson at 12.3 all the way down to Kozlowski at 10 flat.
So Johnson and Bowyer, 2 most expensive. The proverbial free square. I mean, you're going to be playing one of those guys probably in almost all your lineups. It's really going to be hard to put them together, but if you really want to take a dive into the dumpster for 2 guys, which I don't think is going to be the way you're going to build this week. I think you're going to have to get the right one of those 2. It's going to be one or the other. I think Jimmy Johnson's much better here, much better on this type of track. Clint Bowyer's running into some bad, juju. So I expect Jimmy to, come in probably a lot higher owned, probably 35-40%. Like I said, you're building around these guys. And then Clint probably being maybe in the high 20s to low 30s, just because it's only a $500 price difference. So, why not just spend up with the better track record here. And then Denny Hamlin, again, another one. Denny Hamlin should have been a top 10 car on Sunday, but the freaking weight falls off the car before the race even starts. So, I think he went 5 or 6 laps down just from that, and then just battled back, and thank God got himself to 29th. So another proverbial free square. Again, still hard to play any of these two guys above together. And then you get into the meat and potatoes of like where these guys, because of the free square, are going to end up lower owned. I don't think they're going to be ridiculously low, but Kyle Busch from 17th at 10.5. You need him to dominate a little bit, not a whole ton, probably 30, 40 laps or something like that. 15, 20 dominator points, and then a top 5, top 8 finish or something like that would probably pay off. Keselowski, a little bit less, he only has to probably get you 25, 30 laps, led or fastest laps combined, maybe for another 10 points, and then a top, 10-ish finish. And then same thing, then we'll get into Chase Elliott as we get a little bit cheaper.
Gotcha. So basically, it's just mainly Bowyer, Johnson, then throw in one of these other guys.
Yep.
If you're fading both of them. You're
going to probably, if you're building like 20 lineups, one of the 3 of those guys between Johnson, Bowyer, and Hamlin's going to be in every lineup except for the one. It's like I said, they're the proverbial free square, but very hard to build around them. So that's what makes it more interesting, because it's going to really drive their ownership, into the 30s or high 20s in order to build the basis of your lineups. And then you've got the guys that are going to be lower owned again, so that you can try to get them and hit with them, which are going to be like your 15 to 20% at the most owned of these guys.
Gotcha. And then, so let's go down. We only have 4 in the 9K, and then 5 in the 8K. So we'll go through this whole upper mid-tier kind of range. Starting at 9,700 is Chase Elliott, all the way down to 8,100 Matt Kenseth.
Yeah, so Chase dominated in the truck, looked really good. So Chase Elliott, you expect to do really well here, starting 19th. He finished 3rd, but then got 2nd because of the Jimmy Johnson disqualification after post-race inspection. So, that's 19th is beautiful. Again, you're probably going to need a little bit of dominance from him, something, or a win, or like a top 3 for him to pay off at 9,700. Same thing from Truex. I do like Truex a lot here, starting 15th. He's $300 cheaper than Elliott. I see him being a pretty good pivot off of Elliott. And it's night racing for one, which is something that Truex is really good at when it transitions from, dusk to dark. And then Kevin Harvick is just great here as well. Kurt Busch, I think, is going to probably be the lowest owned in that 9K range, just because the 3 guys above him are so much better. And then, the next 4 guys or so, even all the way through the 8K range, are better than him. So, he's kind of the worst one in that 8 to 9K range, just because I think he could finish around there, maybe 10th, if he's good, unless, he wins on a pit strategy or something crazy like that. But he's going to be low owned. So, he could end up being that low owned hammer as well, too. So it's everybody in here has got a little bit, like, all the way through, I think, into like the 8K, 8,500, or maybe even a little bit deeper. Like, they're really well priced for where they're starting and what they're supposed to do. So, like I said, it's really going to make the roster construction different. Like, you're going to have some 1 dominators, you're going to have some 2s, you're going to have some 3s, and you might even throw one that's just straight place differential. But so, yeah, that's with them too, and that's the 9K range. Joey Logano, I think, would be probably lower owned, just like Kurt Busch, maybe a little bit higher, just based on the 8th place starting. You're going to need him to dominate a little bit more, 25, 30 laps, but $8,900 is, a nice price tag for him. And then you got Alex Bowman, William Byron together, teammates, guys starting on the front row together. It's like, who's going to lead the first part of this race is what you're going to need from the one of those. I think more people are going to lean Bowman, just because he was just so good last week. And then Byron as well. He's the whole Hendricks team's been really good lately. That's why Jimmy Johnson's one of the free squares up top, and, all the way through. And then Bubba Wallace, again, people were talking about it in the chat. He's like the cheapest back marker that's in solid equipment. I could see Bubba finishing 25th or maybe even closer to 20th if he doesn't mess up, which, like him and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., that's you're hoping you hit with those guys. One of them usually hits, and it's getting the right one with that. And then even Matt Kenseth, 26th. I mean, he's $8,100. He's cheap. You're getting some solid place differential. You're hoping, Kenseth has been good since he got back in this car. Top 15 car pretty regularly. So I could see him getting you 10 spots, and at $8,100, that's something you like as well. So yeah, it's all the way through the 8K range. And then, it's a little bit of the same as we get down into the 7s, but then you just got the garbage at the bottom that you're just you're using if you're trying to stack your top as much as you can to try to get as deep into like the 7s or 8K range you could for your remaining drivers if you're building around those expensive place differential guys or those slightly less expensive but place differential dominator guys you're going to play up top.
Gotcha. So if you had to pick, let's just say 2 out of this 4-man 9K range and then 3 out of the 8K range, like your favorites out of those ones.
Out of the 9K, man, Chase Elliott probably is my favorite. And then they're in order. It's like him, Truex, Harvick, I think is the way I would like those guys. And then, in the 8K range, I'm taking more of a stab at you've got your Bowmans or your Byrons, which you hope dominate early and finish well. And then, Bubba Wallace is another proverbial, free square potentially if you're trying to take one of those really top guys. He's a really safe second option against like a Jimmy Johnson to try to save you a little bit of money to try to, mess around with the rest of your lineup. If you took Johnson and you took Bubba, that would leave you with like $7,300 for the next 4. So, you might be able to build around that pretty easy as a very safe kind of baseline build, and then only have to really fill in 4 squares, which is probably going to be the basis. I think they're going to be high owned in cash, these two, just because they're the proverbial expensive and cheap free square cash.
Sure. Okay. And let's go. If you're just joining us, thank you for watching. If you could subscribe so you know when we get every NASCAR show comes on, and hit the like button, please. But let's go down to the 7K range. We got 7 drivers here, starting at the top at 7,900 with Ryan Blaney, all the way down to 7,000 of Austin Dillon.
Yeah, so, I think you're going to end up getting, a piece in here as well. I like Blaney 18th at 7,900. Maybe a top 10, top 8 finish would probably get him there, which is doable. Erik Jones, kind of the same thing. For Erik Jones to get there, I expect him to go out and lead, 15, 20 laps or something like that, maybe on a pit strategy or something like that. He's been running very well, so, I like that at the price. You don't need a ton. In the 7K range, Tyler Reddick's probably going to be one of the lower owned ones, just because 13th, I could expect maybe a 20th or so from Tyler Reddick, the way he's been. But again, it's Charlotte. There's some pit strategy that's gone into a couple of these races. Chase Elliott with the damned if you do, damned if you don't pit stop at the end of the race with like 4 laps to go. I know you were crushing when that happened, but right before that happened. And then I had Chase. If I would have got a second restart, I would have crushed the single entry one that I was in on Sunday as well, but still finished out of 75,000 in like the 500. So it was pretty cool. Newman, another cheaper free square. If you wanted to build a lineup around like a Jimmy and a Newman, it makes it probably somewhere around the $75 to $7,700 range that you'd have left for the rest of the guys. So, again, these guys are kind of there's so many kind of free squares that you can take this week, but they're not always free. There comes with some risk as well. And Ricky Stenhouse, Recky, 24th. If he finishes this race, he's good. He should finish in the top 10, top 15, which would get you there at $7,300. But it's always a swing of the bat. Like if he's going to finish,
that is capitalized with both letters with 3 underlined marks.
Yeah, but if he gets there, he gets there. But if he doesn't get there, he gives you a 3 or a negative score. So there's always risk involved with him. Eric Amarola, Austin Dillon. To round out the 7K range. Amarola is a little bit interesting. He's been okay, not the greatest, but at $7,200 starting 6th, if he goes out and leads 20 or 30 laps and then finishes like 10th, I think he could get you there. Austin Dillon, kind of in the same ballpark. It's only $200 difference. Amarola's in better equipment. Austin Dillon's been a little bit nicer recently, so you could take a swing at him. I don't expect either of them to have any crazy ownership, probably nothing over like 10% or something like that.
So mainly sounds like you're the guys are like Blaney, Newman, Amarola, more your favorites.
Yeah, the 8K is where you're going to
range.
get your safer cheap plays, and then the 7K range is where you're going to be more kind of swinging for it with your riskier plays, but you're going to have to probably have a piece in that range unless, like I said, it's the roster construction. It's like it depends on how you're attacking. If you're attacking cash, you're going to probably want, I would probably be safer going with like a Johnson, a Johnson and Newman build, or a Johnson and a Bubba Wallace build to start off in cash for sure. I think that's going to be the most popular starting points because they're safe. And then, like I said, you're going to end up in the sevens. And then if you want, you have the option to go full punt with one of these guys that are under like $5,500 on DK and like the $3,500 range. We updated the cheat sheet this week with those punt options. It's like if you're going to take a punt you're forced to take a punt, those are the guys that we would rank. So I had actually added a whole new column with CK just because those guys, it's like no more than one of them in a lineup is really optimal, and it's like those guys, it's just law of attrition. Like if you hope that somebody starting like 36 makes it to 30th and scores you like 25 points at like $4,000. But yeah, that's where we go. And then, and then we get it. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Okay. Yeah.
I was just I thought you were transitioning to the 6K range right here, which is a very interesting 6K range, starting off at Christopher Bell at 6,800 down to Ryan Preece at 6,000.
Yeah, Christopher Bell. It's like I said, the pricing this week was pretty spot on. Like I said, so it's so many tough decisions. That's why it's like I'm not really telling you to go off of anybody this week. I think as we get into the 6K range, you've got Christopher Bell, which you expect to finish a little worse than where he's starting. I could see him finishing in the 15, 16 if he runs well. And he's good, but it just hasn't been having those kind of finishes lately. He had the ninth here, so again, swing of the fence, swing of the bat, trying to get him. Same thing with Chris Buescher. Buescher's been really good here, as we start getting cheap like that, I think people are going to garner some ownership on Buescher just because if you're forced into the 6K range, he's like one of the cheaper, one of the better options I would think in here. MDB, probably like a 10th place finish if he runs really, really well, unless he hits it on a pitch strategy, which he could. MDB's run really well lately. Like you even see on his average fantasy points is like 35 in this range, which you feel like he's a little safer. I expect like a 10th. So if he goes out, dominates a little bit, and then falls back and finishes 10th and gets you like 15, 20 laps or something, again with pitch strategy or something like that, he could get you there. Ty Dillon, Daniel Suarez, and Ryan Preece are all kind of like those, cheaper 6K. You're hoping just for a little bit of place differential guys. Ty Dillon goes out, gets you like an 18th or something like that. I could see him getting you there. It's like I said, the pricing is so good that it makes you make a lot of hard decisions. And I think in tournaments, it's going to be how freaky you get in like this 6 to 7K range and just get that lucky hit on those specific drivers this week. Ty Dillon, safer. You'd hope to get like an 18th, like I said. Daniel Suarez, 28th. I would probably take Ty Dillon over Daniel Suarez just because he's just been so horrible lately. Like he's just not getting the finishes. The car's not running that good. The team's just not coming together yet. So, I could see if you had to, but I wouldn't go too crazy on him, even though he seems almost like a free square at 28th. But if you're looking at his old numbers, but don't get fooled by the fact that he was in Stewart Haas equipment last year and he's in a much worse team this year. And then same thing with Ryan Preece. Pretty much just has to finish about where he's starting. Like if he finishes 20th, which he could do, he could probably get you there, something like probably 30 to 35 fantasy points or something like that if he finishes in the 15s or something like that. So, he
started 29th on Sunday, finished 23rd. So it's like, does 20, if he goes around what he started, like you said, he's fine. And he proved he could do that. He did it Sunday. So
Yeah, but he's been bouncing off the walls and tearing cars up, and so that you got to take he's like the $6,000 Ricky Stenhouse. You know, you've seen him a little better than where he started. But
I get a cheaper person that can wreck.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's fun about it. Before we get into this value, if you could hit subscribe, hit that like button, that'd be awesome. And right after this value play, we'll get into the questions. So get your questions ready if you already have them. And let's talk about the scrubs. Any of these people under 6K worth taking a stab on?
Once we get into the 5K range, it's like, what did you do with the other squares? And it's like, how confident are you in those 4 or 5? I probably would. I don't think you're going to end up down here in FanDuel at all. In the bottom of the barrel, but if you had to, on FanDuel, I probably wouldn't. You're going to be able to get somebody in the 5 to 6K range that will help you build the other 4 people that are well priced. I mean, you can steal legit. Like I said, I was looking over on FanDuel. If you took Jimmie Johnson, Clint Boyer, and Bubba Wallace, you can still afford like Chase Elliott. If you do those 3 on FanDuel Cash, it still leaves you with $12,400 for the other 2 drivers. So, I expect you're going to be playing. It's 1 versus 1 over there. It's like the other 2 drivers, you get an extra 10, 12 points, and it's going to be like a position up is going to jump you like 1,000 spots. Like it's going to be that crazy with those only 2 spots really moving anything. So if those, if the free square drivers and Jimmy, Clint Boyer and Bubba Wallace all hit. I mean, Bubba at $5,000 on FanDuel. It's you could play him and then you could do whatever else you want with the rest of your lineup. Still, I think it would leave you with like $11,250 for 4 other drivers. So you're still well into the 10K range, and there's only like 7, 8 guys, up there in the 11K and above, anyways. So it's like proverbial free square over there.
Gotcha.
But so all these guys in the 5K and below, I'm sorry, you're swinging for the fence that they just get enough people in front of them to wreck. You think the race gets wrecky. I really like the Michael McDowell $4,500 price tag. Don't think I'm going there at all. That's like the best price guy in the slate starting 3rd. You expect Michael McDowell to finish in the deep teens if he has a good race. But pit road penalties or something stupid, this guy's going to be in the mid 20s, a lap down probably, and just not get you there. So I like that $4,500 price tag, but I still think he's probably going to be one of the lowest owned guys on the slate.
What about a Brennan Poole?
See, Brennan Poole, you're looking at like 30th. It's like, if he gets you 23rd, 24th, gets you 5, 6, 7 spots and finishes in the low 20s, he gets you there. So, but again, these guys aren't going to garnish a ton of ownership unless you see a bunch of people stacking the other 4 or 5 drivers, and that's all you have left. Like, if you would expect this race to get wrecky and just hope to God that all 4 or 5 of your drivers, like golf, just make it to the next round, like just that they finish the race. And this isn't 500 miles, by the way. It's only 500 kilometers, so it's 208 laps, not compared to the 400 we just did on Sunday. So it's more of a sprint here. So the guys that run good on short runs, I think, are going to be the cars to go. And then I expect a couple of good long runs, and you're going to see the field shift around a little bit. But it's hard to pass here. And with it pouring rain, if we get this race in, even tonight, like, how is the track condition going to be? How's the PJ1 traction compound going to come in? Like, I think if it poured like it sounds like it's pouring there, like I haven't looked at any weather cameras or anything like that, but I expect it to be, they said flash flood warnings and stuff like that. So I expect it to be bad. So if it's soaked, and it's going to run all that rubber out of the track, and it's going to be, I think, a lower groove race, which means it's going to be probably a more boring race because the only thing that's going to cause any chaos is if somebody's trying to get up into that traction compound and it hasn't been heated up yet or activated, and like you just end up slamming into the wall and throwing a caution. Like, that's the cautions are going to be like one car getting loose, getting past or something like that, or just getting a little bit of contact and just smashing into the wall. But again, it's a shorter race. They're gearing up for some short track racing on Sunday. So, I think it's going to be more of one of your boring kind of, typical, just boring NASCAR races where it's just around and around and around, couple of single car accidents. But, with them coming back in the last couple of races, we've seen a little bit more cautions than normal. But again, it's usually just these single car accidents. So it's quick cleanup. And then, I don't think we're going to get anything monstrous, like anything more than maybe 2 cars at a time with any collisions here. So, the attrition rate for these guys isn't going to be automatic. I don't think it's going to be as much as you would hope. But, again, any of these guys in the 5K range get you 2, 3, 4 spots, get you somewhere in the 20s. It's a good baseline to be able to stack the rest of your lineup. So you'll probably play a couple of these guys, but I definitely wouldn't play more than one guy. Sub probably Nemechek at like 5,700, which I don't even like Nemechek. Brennan Poole down one guy. Poole being the safest. Balicki being the safest with place differential. You hope he gets you like a 30. And then LaJoy is another one of the, stabs. If LaJoy goes out and gets you a 15th or even a 20th, probably he could pay off at 5,400.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just checked. It was a tropical depression that was going through. Yeah. So that's why, as of right now, it looked like the heart of the storm just passed. So they could get it in, depending on how much water is on that track, which by the looks of it could have been a lot, but I am not at the track. I am not a meteorologist, so I am not going to guess.
Yeah, I mean,
I can tell when a lot of rain comes through.
Yeah, last that I saw, it looks like about 9 o'clock it drops. Earlier when I was looking at it, it was like 100% up to 8 o'clock, and then like after 8 o'clock it tapered off to like 60, and then like by 10 it was like 50 or below. Now it's shifted a lot more, like you said. I think the eye of the storm hit, so it's like 80% right now, and then it's tapering off to like 15%. So I think they think the storm's just done after that, and by like 9 o'clock. So we could start this race late. I don't know how gung-ho. They do have lights, so they could. So I don't know, man. We might get it in tonight, but I don't think it's going to mean anything different between tonight and tomorrow, except for the fact that maybe that would push you off Truex a little bit because you like Truex going into the dark. And if they run the race in the afternoon tomorrow or something like that, maybe it'll kind of lower your ownership on that. So, again, you're going to be locked at 8 o'clock tonight anyways on DraftKings for sure. I know FanDuel last time put up like another one when they had the delay for earlier in for the Darlington race. So we'll see that too. But, if you're on DraftKings, that could be a way to kind of go with a lineup if you wanted to kind of turn yourself down on a Truex or something like that because you think they're going to get it in tomorrow instead of today. Truex would be a little bit, not as safe. So, if you're going to get locked in on DraftKings, I could see you building around without making sure you have a few lineups without him in it as well.
And time for the question portion of the show. If we have a couple of questions, if you have any questions, just throw them in there. As long as the questions keep coming, we'll be here. But let's start. Travis in the YouTube chat, Travis Duarte. Probably pronounced that wrong. Ty Dillon or Wallace, which is, I don't know how different price they are in FanDuel, but DraftKings
Ty Dillon's 63, different. And then you got, Bubba at 83. Bubba's safer. Ty Dillon is still very attractive at $6,300. It's trusting the Richard Petty Motorsports equipment. Like, if he finishes this race, he should be in the 20s. Hopefully, he's decent. He's that deep in the field. But Ty Dillon also, I could see, he's been running really well. So I could see him getting into the 20s, and that's about all he'd need at 6,300. So yeah, man, they're both good, but depends on what you built with the rest of your lineup and how safe you're trying to go, and how much more you're trying to spend down in order to put in another stud or somebody in the mids 8 to 9K range.
Hunter Dobbs, he asks, Ty Dillon, LaJoy, Truex, Bowman, Kyle Busch, and Chase Elliott with a cash and a question mark for cash.
You on DraftKings or FanDuel, Hunter? I mean, I could see you could put that in on both sides. I like Ty, the 25th. You hope he gets you like an 18th or something like that. LaJoy, was the lower owned play. Let me see what LaJoie's ownership was panning out at. I know it wasn't anything crazy, but he's cheap. So LaJoie's at like 15 probably percent, because he's like the safer guy in that 5K range. So yeah, I mean, I can see putting that lineup on both sides. That's a pretty solid cash lineup. If you were gonna fade the super chalk with with the Jimmy Johnson or Clint Boyer, Jimmy Johnson being safer, Boyer being the probably lower owned of those two.
It was on DK. I put it in, it was $0, and then he replies DK, and then customer care. That's their name. I like that. Odds, we have a race tonight.
Pull a quarter out of your pocket and flip it. That's about the odds, I think. It's 50-50. Like, I don't know. They've got really good track drying equipment. They've got like 4 tracks worth of track drying equipment. I saw New Hampshire trucks in the Charlotte race. So, they've got tons of the jet dryers out there. So I know they're really trying to stuff them in to give these guys time to travel. So, and the TV contracts, NASCAR don't get paid till the race happens. So if the race don't happen, NASCAR doesn't get paid. So they're going to try to stuff it in where they can get it in. So, if they don't do it today, I could see it being like noon, maybe 2 o'clock or something like that tomorrow. So these guys can be on the road by that night to get to Bristol for the race on Sunday.
Yeah. We'll stay around for a few more minutes. So as we get questions in, I had something. I was gonna say,
I'm gonna build a cash lineup on DK. What would I do?
Waiting. If you're watching, any questions? But always hit that subscribe and then hit the like button to go along with it. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate NASCAR being back. It's always fun to get 4 races in the beginning of the week. You got all these kinds of races, Cup Series, everything in the beginning.
Yeah,
it's weird to have it, but it's nice to have it. What are you building? What do you start off with your cash?
Johnson, Elliott, Bubba, LaJoie, Stenhouse so far. But I'm going to do something a little different. 68.
I'm going to check out, see if NASCAR's put out anything about the weather. Any kind of update about the race.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson, Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Preece, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ty Dillon is like, that's uber safe. Like, that's the, if you're doing a 50-50, that's like probably what I'd do, something like that in like a 50-50 contest. Just, you're taking a little risk with Ty Dillon, you're taking a little risk with Ricky Stenhouse, but it's about as safe as you can go and still have $100 left on the table. If you wanted to switch one of those other pieces between like, Bubba or Ty or Stenhouse or Preece, and maybe switch 1 or 2 of them to maybe pay up a little bit for one other guy or pay down for one other. But I was able to keep the rest of my build over the 6K range, taking Preece at 6 and taking Ty Dillon at 63. It still left me enough for Bubba Wallace at 83 and Ricky at 73 at 12.3 and 9,700 between Johnson and Elliott. And if you wanted to save a few bucks, you fade Johnson on that cash lineup and you put in Clint Boyer, and maybe you can pay up for somebody over Ryan Preece with the $500 or so savings. I'll look at it and see what that happens. Like, I think that's going to be where you're going to see the basis of these tournaments. Probably take Preece out.
We did have a couple more questions pop in. Travis Duarte asked, "What's your thought on Cole Custer?"
Cole Custer 9th. You're swinging, for the fence, but at $5,800, if he finishes top 15, which they could do if they, hit it on pit strategy and just he's able to keep it out of the wall. I don't see him being anything crazy, probably like 5 to 10% ownership. But, with somebody that low owned, it doesn't have to do a whole lot to pay off. It makes him interesting. Like I said, the pricing, man, it's like you're just going through this and you're like, all right, well, I could see why that price, the prices make sense top to bottom. I wish they would have made it a little bit easier like FanDuel did with not pricing up the starting position guys. But again, it's going to make it much more interesting. And I don't expect a really ridiculous number of ties. Like you're not going to tie with 150 people. You might tie with 5 or 10, basing on, all really depending on how much of the chalk hits compared to how much of the dart throws hit. Like that's what's going to be the difference maker in tournaments. If you get a guy at like Cole Custer at 5% and the dude goes out and finishes in the top 5, like, you're crushing just based on that. You're moving through the field like, a few hundred people at a time. Every time he gets you a quarter of a point or a half a point or a point for a place differential, you're going to be making, those monster leaps through the field. And, those are the ones you're risky on, but those are the ones that pay off the most when it comes to tournaments.
Jim Parrish asks, would you play both Byron and Bowman in the same lineup?
You could. I don't think you're going to need more than one piece probably starting inside the top 10 just because you've got so many attractive options in the teens to low 20s. So, if you're taking 2 pieces in there, you're hoping that both of them go out like, who's going to lead the first stage is really what you're looking at with those two because they're teammates. If one gets out in front of the other one's blocking for him anyway. So he's probably going to lead the whole stage. So that's where you're getting into the coin flip between Byron and Bowman. But, Hendricks have been super fast. So like I could see that getting there if they both do like 30, 40 laps and then finish in the top 5. They were both running really well. Byron had issues. Bowman has just been lights out. So, yeah, I could see you playing them both in the same lineup. I wouldn't do if you were doing 10 entries, I wouldn't base all 10 of my entries on that. But, getting 3-4 lineups, at least with one, probably 5 to 6 with any of the 2 of that or either of the 2 of them. And then probably 2 or 3 of those 5 or 6 if you're building around them with both of them on it if you wanted as well. You're hoping for a good finish from both of them and a little bit of dominator points to pay off because they're not that expensive.
Gotcha. G. Tucker asked, would you do a Hendricks stack on FanDuel?
Yeah, you could. Like I said, in FanDuel, you're just hoping for a good finish. I could see that being probably I could see you doing that all day long. Byron, Bowman's dirt cheap. Or not, Bowman's not dirt cheap. Byron's dirt cheap at 10.7. Bowman's priced up a little bit at 12.2. You do that, and then you take the other proverbial free square with Bubba Wallace. That leaves you with, So if you took Jimmy Johnson, William Byron, Alex Bowman, your semi-dart throw starting in the rear, super duper cheap Bubba Wallace, you still got about 11K left for 2 other guys. So, you got 11K left for one guy, which puts you in to Ryan Blaney at 10.4. You're building that in the cash, and then the little bit of a difference maker between you going from winning, double your money to 3 times your money is going to be the Ryan Blaney's, the Kurt Busch's, the Erik Joneses, with a little bit of savings. So yeah, I could see a Hendricks stack working. Jimmy Johnson's super safe. William Byron and Alex Bowman just need to finish well because the dominator points and stuff like that don't really need squad over here. It's all about finishing position and finishing laps.
I actually got a question. Did you get an update on the race from customer care? I was looking through Twitter. It's basically say it's raining and fingers crossed. That's all I could find. That's all they're saying right now because they're not giving out anything. So it's still fingers crossed, just to let everybody know. But Swifty Swift, what's your ownership? Here's one of your ownership projections on Jones. He's trying to pivot off Newman.
You're looking at Jones and Newman. So we got Jones is at 7,800. Newman's at 7,500. Safer options, probably Newman. He's completely shook the cobwebs off of the wreck at Daytona. He's been running really well. Starting fifth, or where was he starting? He's starting 25th, I believe. And that was all just because of the battery issue that he had. If he wouldn't have had a battery issue, I think he probably would have been a top 15 car. 27th. It's cool there. And then, Jones, you're leaning on the Dominator. He's a little bit scarier, but he's also been really good lately. So, I could see you going there too. I don't think they're going to be way off because Erik Jones at $7,800 doesn't need to do a ton for you. It's just more you're looking at this one as how is the race going to go? Is it going to be the dominant going to be spread all over the field and you're going to have like 7 or 8 people with 15, 20 laps, or are you going to have somebody that leans left and gets you 40 or 50 laps and finishes well? Or you get the cheaper potential dominators that just don't need to do a whole ton. So, like I said, DraftKings, kudos to the pricing this week, but it makes it way more interesting, which is cool because I think you can really start to figure out kind of like how you want to build your lineups going forward on a race like this, because you're going to see, if you build it in a couple of different styles, where how many dart throws are you taking and how safe are you playing it, and you can see how those lineups are going to move, through the field, and it kind of gives you it's this one's going to be a really good race to gauge out the types of lineups you're playing, because you can play them very particularly with a couple of the really higher owned guys or the safer dominator place differential guys that are going to be in like that mid tier of pricing to make them a little bit more attractive than they would be normally when they were way more expensive or in some cases way cheaper.
Gotcha. Keekser asks, it's crazy to not have Jimmy in cash.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Okay, that was on easy. DK, on FanDuel, it doesn't matter. He's literally the free square on either side if he finishes well, which he should finish in the teens probably, and 25 place differentials on top of he's going to get you like a 50 if he ends up in like 15th. I think I'd have to look at our chart, but I think he had like 15th place or something like that to get you like 50 points.
Travis started to ask one more questions. He missed it. Your thoughts on Logano? And he says, my bad. There's no my bads. You got a question?
Yeah, you're good. Throw it in there. Logano,
doesn't matter which one.
So yeah, I mean, Logano starting 8th. You need Logano to go out and lead you a good chunk, like 25, 30 laps and finish inside the top 10, hopefully maybe a place or two further forward, 5th, 6th. They've been good. Keselowski won on Sunday. That was a fluke. I think Chase Elliott was going to win that race all day long. So yeah, he's your, probably 10 to 15% owned. He's the price is nice at $8,900. We're not asking Logano at like $10K to go out and get you 60 or 70 laps to hit value and finish decent or win the race. Here it's a little cheaper, so you don't need as much. So yeah, it makes it interesting. I think it'll be like 10 to 15% on.
Gotcha. Robert Kahn, who wins the race?
I want to see Chase win it, man. Like, the dude just crushed in the trucks. I think he deserves to win it. They donated all his money to the COVID relief, so thank you. So yeah.
Jim Parrish asks, how do you feel about Math B?
I'm thinking he's probably Matt DiBenedetto. Yeah,
okay,
man.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Matty D's starting a little too far forward for me. Like, if you were building 3-4 teams, I don't think he's making one. If you're building 20, he's another dart throw at $6,500. I think he'll probably be sub 10% ownership. So it's, with him, it's okay. Are you going to go out and finish in like 10th or 12th or somehow lead a little bit and finish like 15th, 16th? That's probably what you'd expect unless they hit it on pitch strategy. And then he's, you're moving a few hundred spots every time he does something like an extra spot or, a dominator point of some point. At some point, it's going to make huge differences in your lineup. But he's, he's a dart throw. He is like Ricky Stenhouse. If Ricky Stenhouse was starting 4th, it'd be the same exact thing. Ricky, when he starts well, he could finish well. So, they're always the dart throws, but they're also the huge difference makers every week if you hit them on your lineup.
Gotcha. Looks like we're all caught up on questions. Running about, 45 minutes. That's not too bad. It's interesting just racing on the same track 2 weeks in a row. You already dissect it once. It's basically.
Or you could be like Kyle Busch and race it like he's going to race 7 races in 11 days or something like that. So
and he's going to be on this track for the 4th time in 4 days.
Yep, 4th time in 4 days.
That's got to be tiring.
Yeah, thank God the truck race is only like 200 miles, so it was only like.
And they didn't have that. They didn't have that many. They didn't have any really long caution. A couple cautions, but
yeah, exactly. You saw even with the trucks, which are usually a little bit more violent. You know, the guys will throw them around and beat them up a little bit more than normal. There was some tore up trucks, but for the most part, Brennan Poole crushed me yesterday. Yeah. I don't really play trucks in Xfinity too often. I've been trying to get into it a little bit more, and trying to play with the projections on those. We'll try to get something out maybe, in the near future with them, but. I'm still trying to figure it out, man. It's ridiculous. But my wife crushed. She went with the don't take Kyle Busch look, which I told her, I'm like, if you're building 2 or 3, build one with him, build one without him. Like, because if Kyle Busch doesn't get you there, like, he's the proverbial free square, but he was like $15,000, 17 grand in the Xfinity car. Xfinity car, he pretty much got you there with the win. But in the truck, he didn't get you there. I think he got you like a 50 at like 15K. It's like you go to the next most expensive guy, chase at 12.4, and the dude won the race. I think led like 56 laps or something like that. So, he just smashed. So that was where she built hers. She finished, I think, 9th on FanDuel out of like 500 or 600 people. So, good job out there dueling mama on FanDuel.
That looks like all the questions. Travis Sarday says, great content as always, guys. Let's go. Thank you, Travis, for always tuning in. But with that ends another show, NASCAR show for the Wise Take Nation. For everyone that tuned in and subscribed and thank you very much. I am at Clint Patrigas. If you have any questions about anything, hit them up in the Wise Take Slack or on Twitter at kartracing_22. Tom's amazing.
Check out the site too, guys. Like the NASCAR stuff, I'm pretty sure it's still free. You got the projections, you got the cheat sheets. I added the punt column for you if you needed it. So it's some good content, man, and that's what you have to expect from us. We've got some other stuff that we're working on as well. So come follow us, man. We're crushing KBO. We got our Counter-Strike Go guru sitting across from me. He's good. We're crushing in the KBO. We're crushing on the online gaming stuff. So, and NASCAR, man, we're killing it too. So, come just check us out, man. And you're gonna like what you see, and especially if you get that Slack with the memberships. You can talk to us. I'm always on the Slack right before the race, answering any questions right up to locks. So, good luck, guys, this weekend. Let's go crush it.
As always, thank you. Good luck. Peace out.